What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to IndieQuest, the celebration of the indie and obscure, the best indie video game podcast on the internet. I'm just putting that blanket statement out there. I'm one of your hosts, Josh, also known as Frantic, and I'm here with one of my co-hosts, Steve. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really good. I'm going to go out on a limb and say you should also listen to other indie podcasts as well. You know, get a nice variety of opinions so you can see why ours are maybe some of the most well thought out and robust.
I'm joined by another one of my awesome co-hosts here, the captain himself, Captain Drachma. How you doing today?
I am doing well as well. And I'm willing to bet that if anybody goes back through our back catalog of podcasts, we each had at least one good opinion on one of them. But you know what that means? They have to listen to them all to find out. Maybe a couple times.
That's true. I mean, if you're, out combing the beach with your little metal detector and one time you happen to find a nice little chunk of gold or platinum in there, you're trying to tell me that you're not going to come back to that beach multiple times trying to find another lost engagement ring? Yeah, you're returning.
Like, man, the second week of February 2022, Steve was smart that day. Yeah. None of the other days, but that day specifically.
Yeah. Episode 1, when I brought Katana Zero, that was my best opinion ever, and it just went downhill from there.
Magnum opus.
So,
that's where you peaked.
Well, let's get into some indie game talk, unless you guys have anything else to throw out there today. It's a bright, beautiful Sunday. This is a little unique for us. We're recording on a Sunday. Usually it's a Monday, You guys have a good weekend so far?
Yeah. I have had a pretty darn good week. And I will say, just a little back and forth between the three of us, I feel like I'm a little bit more upbeat today. I don't know how you guys feel, because I didn't have to work on a Monday, I guess. I'm more higher spirits, maybe. Or maybe I should be lower spirits, because usually on Sunday nights I'm dreading working the next day. But maybe I just have more energy or something. I don't know.
Yeah, a little punchier. I think I get that. Yeah, I'm the same way. I'm used to recording on Sundays for another podcast, so this just keeps a nice rhythm for me. But yeah, dude, it's a good weekend. We had my son's birthday party for turning 1 year old, and we successfully threw it together. We scammed everyone. It looked like a real birthday party that adults throw. Worked out pretty well.
Awesome.
It feels like we hit capacity on my house. It's like we invited like a third of the people that are going to be at the wedding were at the birthday party. So
really?
Like a little moose-boosh.
Nice.
And it was a good time. But I was talking to him. I was like, what do you want for your birthday? And, he's one, so he can talk with me just fine. And he's like, well, Dad, I got so much stuff. All I really want is for you to talk about some indie games. I just want to hear your opinion on stuff.
I'm surprised he wasn't like, Dad, I think I'm doing pretty good. You should get yourself like Albert Odyssey or something. Use that money.
Yeah. You've been working hard, man. I think you earned it. Go out and get a copy.
Yep.
Well, we did mention some stuff from last week. The Triple I initiative happened, and I thought that was a pretty cool little presentation. I think the biggest takeaway was Prince of Persia and an indie thing, and then the other one was Slay the Spire 2, right? That's like the main two highlights there, plus a bunch of other cool things are surrounding that.
Yeah, I thought it was a good debut show. There's been a little bit of discussion online around people saying that it maybe didn't wow them, or like the selection of games wasn't super varied, and I would definitely agree with some of that, especially the variety of games. But I think, kind of given the fact that this was pitched as a indie showcase from the developers of some of the biggest, most popular indie games out there, I'm not that surprised that some of it skewed a little safer, a little more known quantity, but it was still a fun show. And we still got a couple cool things. Like you said, I got to see that Prince of Persia game that looked fun. There's a game that we didn't really see any gameplay of, but and I'm actually forgetting the name of it. It was very stylish, kind of like almost Jet Set Radio. It was like RGKJ.
Yeah, it had a weird name. I know exactly which one.
It was like 4 letters, and the game's name I think was Rakugaki, but it was abbreviated. That one looked pretty cool. I'm always happy to see some of the other games that look fun. 33 Immortals got shown again, so that was fun. Hyper Light Breaker. It's like, dude, just give me that game. Stop teasing me with it. And yeah, a lot of good stuff. There's a lot of like kingdom simulators in that showcase. By like the 4th or 5th one, I'm like, maybe I could manage a kingdom. I don't know. Usually I tune out for these kind of games, but by the time they hit like that one that was like set on this beautiful like twin mountainside, I was like, I don't know. Maybe I do want to build a village town. That sounds kind of nice.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, good show. Good show.
Yeah, I mean, people were complaining because they made a joke about SilkSong. And they were like, oh, did Metro, because they had like little Adult Swim type little interstitials, between with like a kind of like omniscient voice, with little jokes and quips. And then the one was like, oh, maybe we'll show a game that's about a bug that's, really highly anticipated. Haha, guys. And everybody's like, oh my God, it's coming. And then it never came. And then people were mad,
Oh. Do you want to know? Here's my grumpy old man opinion, if I can get on my pedestal about that for a second. And we've engaged in some SilkSong jokes and hype and having fun. But like at this point, it's been so long, and there's been literally, not an exaggeration, dozens of Nintendo Directs and Summer Game Fest showcases and indie worlds and all sorts of shows. And every single one, people say, are we going to see SilkSong at this one? Are we going to see SilkSong at this one? I don't know how many times you can edge yourself on SilkSong and then be disappointed and still maintain any kind of angry energy about it. Like, just accept you're not going to see SilkSong and then be delightfully surprised when it finally shows up. Like, it's all right.
I couldn't agree more. Like, and then it's like, well, we'll go ahead and jump into the next topic here. We the Nintendo Indie World happened, so there was like even more hype surrounding that because SilkSong got rated in like Australia and like some other like countries and stuff, and then like it got an Xbox landing page, so everybody's like, oh my God, it's all building to the Nintendo Indie World, and then it happened and it wasn't there. So even me in our chat here, I was like, okay, let's get a little bit prepared. Are we gonna do like a Hollow Knight episode if it comes out? Didn't happen, but hey, you never know. We're ready to do like coverage and celebration of these games when that game is on the horizon. But like I'm not pissed off that it didn't happen. I think that people, just like the internet does, takes one idea and just like blows it out of proportion. Like, just be happy that they're taking their time and making the game awesome. That's my opinion.
It's gonna rule when it comes out. So
yeah, Team Cherry has to be like, it has to be such a surreal experience for them because everyone clamors so hard for this property of theirs. They just want this game so badly, which must make them feel good. But they just they know they're keeping their fans at bay this entire, which is fine. Like, we want SilkSong to be as good as bare minimum, hopefully as good as Hollow Knight, right? So, make it as good as you can. But it's got to be so weird because prior to Hollow Knight coming out, what had they done, right? Hollow Knight was just this big thing, and now all of a sudden there's this insane demand for these guys that were like, we set out to make a indie video we didn't know it was going to do. It's got to be wild for them. And Josh, I will be happily talk about Hollow Knight whenever we're ready for the 15th time unofficially on this podcast.
For sure.
Yeah. And then I was trying to think of like a good analogy for like maybe you, Drachma, like, what if like next week they announced Death's Door 2, and then they're showing like a new playable character with new environments and like new music, and they had this hype trailer, and then this nothing for years. You'd be kind of pissed too, right? A little bit? Maybe?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a Hollow Knight. I don't know if I've ever discussed this on here, but since we're here, right? Hollow Knight is probably a top 10 all-time game for me. Probably my favorite gated exploration game of all time. Nice. I love Hollow Knight. Nice. So when I saw SilkSong, I'm like, heck yeah. But I'm also a little bit of a contrarian in a way. So whenever everyone else gets super excited about something, I'm like, I'm not going to be so excited about that. I'm going to be more excited about something that's a little bit more of a hidden gem or whatever, right? That's the way I've always been. But I mean, when it comes out, it's day one for me. And Death's Door 2, I would die. Oh my God, that'd be so amazing. Let's not even talk about that.
Astute listeners, if they listen to every episode over time, they're going to be able to reconstruct your top 10 games of all time going back. They're going to be like, all right, so you just confirmed Hollow Knight. We know Gungeon's in there. Death's Door's in there. He said Inscription found its way in.
It is, so for sure.
We're almost halfway there.
We are. It's, many more indie games on my top 10 list now than 4 years ago, thanks to IndieQuest. So
That's awesome.
That's the whole point of the show, baby.
Heck yeah.
Well, speaking of like indie games and finding hidden gems, any gems that you guys seen in the indie world you want to talk about that just happened last week?
So there was some stuff that's cool to me. I think the thing I'm most excited for isn't maybe that exciting because we've seen a fair amount of it before. But definitely one of my most anticipated indies by far is Lorelei and the Laser Eyes. They did give it a date, like an announcement on it. And it is a real kind of like monkey's paw situation for me. I don't know how it's going to play out because they announced, forget the exact date, but it was the middle of May. It was like May 14th or something like that. And my wedding is at the end of May. So it's going to come out and it's like, I think in theory I should be all done planning and just waiting for the wedding at that point. So it's like I should have time to play it, but it also feels weirdly like it's bumping up against some other big event that is taking priority. So all the same, I'll get to play it in 2024 and it continues to look delicious.
Yeah, it's on May 16th. You're off by 2 days, but yes. Damn. So just to clarify for the audience, but dude, I was watching some previews for this game and people are like, yeah, I got my notepad out, and I was like, all right, Steve, I gotta let you know people are getting their notepad out for a puzzle game, so it's going to be very much up your alley. So I'm going to play it too. It's awesome.
Extremely my thing. And from Simogo, developers of Sayonara Wild Hearts and Yearwalk, which is a good game too. So looks so freaking good. There's one or two others that were exciting to me, but I'm curious, Drachma, what do you think?
Probably surprising for you two, potentially, based on games that I've brought in the past and games that you guys know I like. But I thought Little Kitty Big City looks awesome. It looks kind of.
Yeah, it looks good.
It's like anime Stray, and I never played Stray, but Stray did not appeal to me as much with the shiny, realistic. I like this the way that this one looks, and just. It seems like you're running around as a cat and just checking off a checklist, and that sounds fun. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it did look very fun. I'll definitely check that one out when it comes out for sure.
Yeah. The one that always keeps sticking out to me, and I'm glad it's coming soon, is Schim, where you play as like a little shadow, like platforming around. Yeah, that one's been shown for 2 or 3 years now at many different places, but it's finally coming out this year, so that's awesome. Another one I'll shout out was Valley Peaks, which I thought was just cute. It's like a first-person like mountain climbing simulator, but you're a frog using your tongue to swing around a mountain. I just thought that looked fun. Like it looks like something I would bring to IndieQuest, honestly, just to be honest. But yeah, so it looks really fun to me. So I probably will pick that one down. Maybe not right away, but that's one that I'll put on a wish list and kind of get it eventually. So
yeah. For sure. One that you maybe wouldn't expect me to be excited about, and I actually didn't think much of it until they started showing the gameplay, but Stitch looks kind of awesome.
That's too funny. I thought of, my wife has been cross-stitching recently.
Oh, yeah?
So I showed her Stitch, and she's like, oh, yeah, that's pretty cool, but it also made me think of Leah a little bit because of what she does. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm just a sucker. I mean, obviously, I'm around fiber arts all the time because of Leah, but I'm a sucker for really nice graphic or really nice video game representation of yarn and fiber and fabric. Very Kirby's Epic Yarn or Yoshi's Woolly World. That type of stuff is just so charming to me. And so at first, when they showed Stitch, I was like, "Oh, it looks kind of nice." And then they showed the gameplay, and it's kind of puzzly, it's almost kind of like Sudoku or something like that. And so I was like, I legit could get down for this, so I will probably pick that one up when it comes out.
And I thought what would be cool for you specifically, Steve, because I was thinking of Leah and you, the whole daily aspect is pretty cool. Once how long can an indie studio keep that up? I guess that was my initial question. At what point do they stop? But I imagine they have probably months and months worth of them at least to start. So that's pretty neat.
Yeah, that'd be really fun. Just log in, do little dailies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Stitch kind of reminds me of a Picross game.
It's
similar in that way where it's probably less math involved or whatever, but it kind of has that same portion of your brain being tickled.
Yep.
So
yeah.
Another one that I think we've actually, you and I, Josh, I think when Steve was on his hiatus last year, might have watched an Indie World that this one was already on. But I am so excited for Animal Well.
Same. Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, that might be near day one purchase for me. I just love the art style on that. And I mean, the gameplay might not even be great. Who knows? But man, I just love the way it looks and I want to experience it. So
very cool art style.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's going to be on PS Plus too, PS Plus Extra. If you guys have PlayStation and you have that service, it's going to be day one a part of the service, which I thought that was awesome. They're doing 2 actually. It's kind of like indie adjacent, but also Tales of Kanzara Zhao is going to be on there too, which is coming out next week. So yeah, 2 I'm looking forward to that are both on PS Plus. So just random shout out there.
For sure. But yeah, all in all, Indie World, I liked it more than the Triple I show. I think it was good.
Yeah, I think it had a little bit more variety. I do think that Triple I was a lot of here's some roguelite stuff, top down, very Hades looking games, and then here's some city builders. This actually had like a nice like mix of genres and types of games, which I appreciate.
For sure.
So there were 2 games. There were 2 games in here that I was like, in Indie World, huh? The first one I wrote down, and I guess I want to hear your opinions on this. Yars Rising looks cool, but published by Atari. That's something.
Yeah, I don't actually really know how to think of that. Like, on one hand, I understand the logic of like Atari, a major like video game juggernaut publisher, but at the same time, like a major juggernaut publisher in the past. These days, like, how much clout does Atari really carry? Probably less than like Devolver Digital at this point. So it's like, how much do I really want to knock it? But I agree with you that it is like, if you want to have fun and just like be a little pedantic about it, it's like, Yars Revenge, huh? Okay, I see.
I mean, we're going to get right back into the Shantae thing all over again, Steve, and start talking like that. That's all I'm saying. You're going to come and defend old Yars.
And hey, man, it's tricky, all right? It's tricky.
The second one for me was similar to the Prince of Persia that we were talking about, Josh, last episode, was the Turtles game. A Turtles game in an indie world. I thought that was a little odd.
Yeah, that's funny. I never even I didn't stop to process that. I guess I don't know what studio is doing that.
Right. I just, and that's a similar conversation as the print. Like, okay, if a indie studio makes a game for a very well-known existing property, is it still indie? It's just one of those things. So.
Yeah, it's like that's one of those things where you start having to be like, follow the money. Like, where does this studio sit? Where's this funding coming from, etc. So, yeah, that's a tricky one.
Yeah, it's a company called Super Evil Megacorp. That's the name of the studio, and they made a bunch of other games I've never heard of. So there's like a MOBA called Vainglory, and then the Rebel Moon game for Netflix Games. So maybe this is just their shtick. This is maybe what they do is they just take a license and make like a little spin-off game with the license, which... That's fine, right?
Yeah. I mean, it looked neat. Honestly, it looked pretty like it would be pretty fun co-op, but just two ponderings that I did while watching the old Indie World.
Yeah. And it's like last time we had a Shantae game in there. We were like, yeah, it's confirmed. Come on. It was at Indie World. So it's, now we got to say Cowabunga, TMNT is a part of the indie world, right?
I think Steve has admitted that all Shantaes are indies except for the one that I wanted to be indie because he wants to be
the one on Game Boy Color. Yeah, that's correct. So if we accept Splintered Fate as indie, you're going to tell me that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game on NES, is an indie game?
It was
by that small little Konami.
Or Ultra, I don't remember, but it could have been Ultra. That's the indie arm of Konami.
all right. I think you made your point.
Yeah, I think so. All right. Well, there's a thing we do on the show is bring games to the quest log. What is the quest log? It's a giant list of ever-growing games that you should play and put on your backlog or play immediately if they're if they're that highly regarded, which we usually put those games on the main quest, which is one part of the quest log here, that is an incredible experience, a certified banger, one of those that is probably a modern day classic. You know, it's an awesome game. We also have the other section to the quest log, which is the side quest, which is still a recommended game, but we usually have a couple of caveats. Maybe it's a little too niche, or maybe it's just missing that little special something, but it's still recommended and an awesome game that you should check out. So today we actually have a little bit of a special twist on the formula. So who wants to explain what this episode's all about?
Yeah, I can take it. So we're... If folks are into it, I think we're definitely both, or all three of us are up for doing it again. But we're introducing a segment we're calling Bargain Quest, and we gave ourselves a challenge with a couple of rules on it. The challenge was to go out and find an indie video game that is sold for $3 or less. So something that is very cheap. It can't cost more than $3. There's a couple caveats to that. One is that the game has to be full price. So it can't be $3 on, Steam sale when normally it's a $20 game. It has to be with no sale involved, $3 or under. And the other challenge, which I think is what makes it a little more interesting, is the game can't be free. It has to be something that is charged for, because I think if we were going to do a free, like a challenge to find free games, that would probably be its own entire thing. It'd be like a separate episode that we could kind of shine some light on all the great games out there that people on Itch and other places are just willing to give out. But in this case, we said, what's stuff out there where people are really, giving it away for the price of a medium French fry, and let's bring some of those and shed a little spotlight on it. So just a fun way to mix it up and add a little flavor.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we always talk about bringing the obscure. Of course, that's what's one of the big things. That's our catch line, right?
Yep.
Bring some obscure video games, but then we often stick to the safe stuff too, right? At least maybe one of us an episode will bring a real gem. But I thought it'd be interesting, we all thought it'd be interesting to kind of compare and contrast, go out there and really dig and find something that people haven't heard of, right? No Firewatches on this one, Steve. So.
I feel like of the three of us, I am the one most guilty of bringing the headliners. I feel like Drachma brings the deepest cuts, Frantic has the variety, and I'm the one who's got our back with the headliners and the classics. Okay, we're each filling a role on the team.
Yeah, I'll take it. Yeah, that's about right. But Steve, you do bring some, I know lately maybe you've brought this Thomas Was Alone and Firewatch, but you've brought some bangers that I've never heard of too. So don't short yourself too much there,
Yeah, we at this point the quest log it's approaching 150 games, so we've all brought good variety at this point. But just trends emerge from time to time, I think. And actually, that'll be consistent for me in this episode. I think I brought maybe the only game that people here have heard of. Because I did bring one that I think has just a titch of name recognition and kind of felt like a little bit of an omission from the quest log in some ways. So you want me to go first? I'm happy to kick us off.
Yeah.
So I had a wide variety of games sort of picked out, and a lot, I would say every other one of them other than this one I had never heard of, and I doubt either of you had heard of them or any of the listeners have heard of. But then, as I like to do, oftentimes, this is kind of my polykill brain kicking off, where I'm like, how can I combine the challenge of IndieQuest with something I've been meaning to play for a long time and haven't yet, and kind of tick off two boxes at once? So I went back and I decided to play, for the show, Macbat 64. So, is this a game either of you have heard of?
I never have.
All right, that's exciting.
Oh. Yeah, I've seen this cover art, but I have no idea what the game is. So,
God, This looks like a Steve-ass game.
It's a Steve-ass game, dude. Okay, so this game, Macbat 64, relevant detail here, costs full price $1.99. It's available on Steam. It's on Switch. I don't actually know the price on Switch. The Steam price is $1.99. And it's apparently available on mobile. I did not confirm. So a Google result said that. I apologize if it's a lie. Don't play this game on mobile, probably, unless you have a backbone.
It is developed. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I did do a quick Google search. It's $2 on Nintendo Switch as well.
There we go. It's a beautiful thing. So it is developed and self-published by someone named Siactro. And I think people may be more familiar with their other games. So this game came out March 17th, 2017. This same developer went on to make games like Super Kiwi 64, Beanie, and probably the most popular of them is the Tori, Toree games, and Tori 3D. And so those are, I think, pretty popular, especially on Switch as like, sort of like budget fun little pick up and play type games. And so this developer has kind of carved out a niche for themselves, right? You can tell from the name of the game, Macbat 64, this person is almost certainly basically our age and is very nostalgia heavy for that N64 era of game. And they have kind of made it their mission to develop like bite-sized N64 collectathon platformer or adjacent style games that feel graphically, sound, gameplay wise, like they would fit right on an N64 cart and could get plucked right out of that era. Someone with reverence for the Mario 64s and especially the Banjo-Kazooies, but also the Glovers and the Chameleon Twists of the world. So it is very much a thing. Yeah.
Contrasting to something you brought semi-recently, Pseudo Regalia. This, Pseudo Regalia looks like from the era, but with polish. This looks like it could be on a cart.
Yeah. If you told me that this was like an unreleased demo or prototype or something from the N64 era, I would 100% believe it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, this will be a relatively snappy review because, if you're familiar with these types of games, you know how this one plays. It is, in this case, it's just you're dropped into a world, and there's usually a small handful of objectives, and you're just trying to get kind of the collectible that completes that world and moves you on to the next one. It's like a big rubber stamp because every level is a page in a book that you're flipping through. And so you'll go into the world, you'll talk to some other characters, collect some coins or some, balloons and return them back to a place, help people with little mini quests like, there's a knight that needs to find a sword and a shield and stuff, and you bring them the sword and shield and they'll open the way to the temple for you. That type of thing. But it is very compact. These levels are very, very small. To walk from one side of to the other of any given level is probably 5 seconds, maybe 10 seconds.
Yeah.
It is teeny tiny because the idea is that each of these levels is supposed to be kind of like a 5-minute little dose of nostalgia, like a quick hit experience. You're in, you're finding some collectibles, you're out, you move on to the next. The whole game, to 100% complete it and get everything, took me about 55 minutes. It was not a particularly long experience. So that's hard to complain with when the game is $2 though. So it's kind of again, that is the expected experience here. It is jammed full of references to other games. All the levels seem to be themed around something that another game is themed around. So there's strong allusions to Banjo-Kazooie, Donkey Kong 64. There's a level that is straight borrowing from Ocarina of Time. They make references and jokes about Super Mario 64. There's a level that is so much of an homage that you'd think it was pulled out of the game. Reference to Kirby and the Crystal Shards on the Nintendo 64. Lots of fun stuff. And all you're doing, in every level, you play as this little bat character. You'll talk to some other characters, kind of anthropomorphic, big googly eye type guys. They'll either make a joke or tell you a little mini objective that they have, and you'll go satisfy it. So this person knows what they're doing. They know what they're into. It's actually interesting. One of the levels has a voice cameo by Grant Kirkhope. So it's almost kind of like getting freaking knighted by the queen there. It's like Grant giving his stamp of approval, saying all right, buddy. So it's reverence, it's playful, it's fun, it's having fun with games of the time. The soundtrack is very fitting. It is another thing where it's got that there's a quality to N64 music. It's jaunty and kind of playful and sort of it's not music that you really ever hear that elsewhere, and you wouldn't maybe listen to it if you weren't nostalgic for it.
Right.
But when you hear it having the context of having played those games, you're like, this is a freaking good song, man.
Yep.
Let's go. So, yeah, it is 100% top to bottom a Nintendo 64 style game. And this is going to spoil a tiny thing at the end of the game, but I will say that when you beat the game, you also unlock what they call bonus levels, and the bonus levels are fun because they are references to other games that are not Nintendo 64 platformers, but in a Nintendo 64 platformer style. So games that many of you would have heard of, including one very popular indie game. And so you get a little like tease of like, well, if this game was on the N64, what would it be like? And I think that was kind of fun. It was a cool way to go. But yeah, very, very, very chill game, fun time. Questions?
I am seeing a couple screenshots. I have two quick questions / comments. I see a screenshot that looks like it's a ripoff of Mario Kart 64. Is there a kart racing section?
There is, in fact, a kart racing level that's
awesome.
a reference to Mario Kart and or Diddy Kong Racing. Yes.
Wow,
Nice.
that's sweet.
Yep.
Second comment. Did you know that there is technically a physical of this game, Steve?
No, I did not. Tell me more.
I just looked the game up and went to images. It's called Super Retro Platformer Collection. It says 4 great games in one. I mean, it was posted a year ago. This could very well be completely fake, but the cover looks legit, or else somebody put some serious time into it. But Macbat is on there along with 4 other characters that I don't know.
Oh, Tori 3D is one of those too. Yeah. Interesting. It's got a listing on PlayAsia and everything.
There you go. So might be something to be on your radar.
It's got a listing in Walmart.
I will imagine that will be an expensive little oddity someday.
Well, I will be adding this one to the wish list ASAP. Heck yeah, dude. Let's go.
I think my main question is this dude, Siaktro, however you say his name, this is his first game. At least it seems like it. How does it play for maybe one of his first projects? It pretty much plays what you expect it to. Is it a little janky, or what's the?
So this is where the timeline is a little confusing to me, because I will say, not only is it referential to N64 era platformers, but he also seems to have fun making his games referential to his other games. And so in Macbat 64, where you play as a bat, there is a couple of references to Super Kiwi 64, and so I'm not sure how exactly the timing worked out, because Super Kiwi 64 on Steam has a release date several years after Macbat 64, but I don't know if it was there was a Kiwi 64 that was a Flash game, and then later that he released the full Super Kiwi 64 as an enhanced version, kind of Super Meat Boy style, or which one came out when and where first. So I don't think this is actually their very first game they ever developed. But all that to say, to answer your question, it controls pretty well. So you play as a bat, and so your only controls are you can move and you can jump. And you can kind of flap. So you have a limited number of flaps, but you can jump and kind of double, triple, quadruple jump. It's 5 or 6 in a row. The camera, just sort of naturally follows you around. You don't actually have direct control over the camera, which they make a joke about in game about how they're like, oh, at least the camera isn't as bad as in Super Kiwi. Now it just follows you around. So there must have been a complaint or something that he had heard in previous games, and it worked perfectly fine. I will say, this was kind of a bummer for me. It was, you only could play with keyboard controls, or I could only play with keyboard controls. So I was playing it with WASD and I forget, enter or spacebar to jump, one of those, which was a little unnatural feeling at first, but I got used to it pretty quick, and it didn't end up, hurting at all. There's basically no combat in the game. So you're not really at risk of messing up and dying or anything like that. At most it'd be a little bit inconvenienced, but there didn't seem to be any native controller support at all. And then, at least on the PC version. And, Steam does have like this thing where even games without PC support, you can sort of like map controller support onto. And there seemed to be like a pre-built template that you could apply to the game using that functionality. But for whatever reason, I don't know if it's just my failure to understand that process or what, it would say it mapped, and then I would go into the game or close and reopen the game, and it still would just have keyboard controls and the controller wouldn't do anything.
Yeah, I have this is slight tangent, but mini rant about that. I've done the exact same thing before where, okay, I got it all mapped out, and it takes time, like considerable time, to make sure you got the right bindings where you want them. And then you go back in, it just does not seem to work. So little minor complaint for Steam there, because I've had similar issues. But I guess for anyone listening and they want to make sure they have the best experience, get the old Switch version, because there's no keyboard on Switch.
Yeah. So. I'd be amazed if the Switch version had keyboard support. Yeah, that would be impressive.
I want my keyboard support.
Yeah. So maybe best played on Switch. And again, like, thank you for looking it up. It's the same price on Switch either way. So probably the way to go. But yeah, the control fine. Works well.
Cool.
Yeah.
I was just curious. I mean, it looks a lot like their other games anyway, and from the gameplay and the trailer, it looks like it plays just fine. So I was just curious, but yeah, it looks like a neat little time. I feel like this is kind of this dude's niche or this person's niche. It's like either they do like a 3-hour at the most game, it's like 1 hour to 3 hours, and it's an N64 with lots of little references. So they've carved that out for themselves.
Yeah, and I had played Tori 3D in the past on Switch, and I liked that. That one is less directly a Nintendo 64 game and a little more of its own ththen. And then, sometime later, friend of the show, Ari Lewis 2011, he recommended this to me. He's like, bro, trust me. And I was like, all right. And then I played it, and I was like, okay, nice. It's this is extremely my jam. And I didn't even realize it was the same developer until I went and did a little research. So after reading that, I was like, yeah, this makes sense. I can see the lineage here, the bloodline tracks. So yeah, that's Macbat 64, people. Again, $1.99 wherever it is you play games, as long as wherever you play games is PC, Switch, or mobile. And sounds like Switch is the way to go. As for where it's going to land on the quest log, this is an easy side quest for me. This is like the equivalent of gaming fast food, right? Yeah. It's not going to keep you full for a long time, but it tastes so good. That nostalgia is nice and salty, fatty, and it just satisfies a craving. You pop in, you chomp on it a little bit, and it gets you, the rest of the way on your drive to whatever the next game is that you're going to play. I appreciate it for exactly what it's doing. It's not trying to be bigger or, more extravagant than it is. And even though I think personally, honestly, you could charge more than $1.99 for this game, I think you could reasonably charge $4.99 and people probably still wouldn't gripe too much. I think you totally get whatever. If you're the type of person that's tracking like value for dollar, I think you'll get it at a price this low. Honestly, I would just trust that Ciactro probably has done the math, and they've released a bunch of these, and they know, like, if I put it out at $1.99, I sell 3 times as many copies as if I put it out at $4.99. So I actually, in the end, make more at a lower price because it's so low that it is impulse money, right? It's
and people talk about it more, right? Because more people are playing it, and it gets more eyes on it, and then more people buy it because it's cheap. Yeah,
I mean, again, you're scrolling through that new eShop games or whatever on Switch, and you hit a game that catches your eye because it looks like the platformers you used to play, and then you see it's only $2. It's like it's risk-free entertainment, and then thankfully, you get in there, and the game totally delivers on its promise, right? It's not just like a 5-minute single level made in Unity or something. It's a full game with a little bit of juice that you get for the squeeze.
Nice. Awesome. I'm sure it's one of those games. Sounds like one of those games where if you are super into the retro 3D collectathon, it's something you need to play before you die type of thing, right? It's on that short list.
Yeah, very much so. Also, I have been calling it Macbat 64 basically this entire time, but it actually has like a subtitle called like Journey of the Nice Chap that doesn't actually seem to show up anywhere where the game is actually listed, but it's on the title screen. So, Macbat 64 Journey of a Nice Chap is the one we're looking for here.
Yeah, Macbat has a monocle, so I'm guessing. Yeah, cool.
Yep. Sounds Macbat. Cool side quest game. Who wants to go next?
I can go, Josh, if you want. Yeah?
Sure, that's fine.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. So I played a game, and it happens to be a bargain of a game.
Oh,
a game that I am pretty much positive, unlike Macbat 64, neither of you have heard of, and probably no one in our audience has heard of either, although I would be surprised if somebody has. It is called, title, probably one of the, I don't know, goofier titles that I've ever played for a game, but...
Wait. You say I've never heard of it, but can I guess the title of the game? I would say... I'm just going to make up a fake indie game and we'll see if this is correct. My prediction is it's called...
There's zero chance you get this.
Froggo's Adventure, Verdant Venture. Shot in the dark, am I right?
No.
Damn it. All right. I thought you posted the beat tweet a couple hours early on accident. All right, never mind. He played a different cheap quick game. All right. What's your actual game?
So it's funny you mentioned that. I will do a slight sidebar here. I did play that game for this episode.
Oh,
and
okay.
I enjoyed that game, but it took about 55 minutes like it took you to finish to Macbat, and I was like, well, I bought another game to play for IndieQuest. I'll just try it out. I got some notes for Froggo already. So then I ended up playing this game, and I enjoyed this one much more and thought it was more worthy of a mention, I guess, on the show. So this one is called Circle Hitter. Circle like the shape, hitter like the guy who goes up to bat in baseball. So I initially saw this one when we decided we were going to do this whole bargain thing, and I will say right out of the gate here, it is $2.99, so absolutely at the upper limit of what we were going to be pricing. The Froggo game was actually 99 cents, which I was happy about, but maybe someday I'll bring that one to a different episode. But with this one, it is one of those games, kind of like Mimic Logic, that is going to be a little bit difficult to explain. But if people look at screenshots, it will help as I go through it. Before we get to the gameplay, of course, which is absolutely the only thing you come to this game for. This game was released this year, so another 2024 game, Valentine's Day of this year. Dev is, I think it's Jamesika or Jamesika. Platform is only PC, and I assume it will only ever be on the PC. And the overview of this game is it is a mouse-controlled bullet hell deflection game. How's that?
Looking at screenshots, it definitely is that. This really reminds me of, I don't think I ever brought it to the show, or if you've ever played it before, but there's a game called Hyperdot that if folks, after you've checked this game out, ever check out Circle Hitter, also look at Hyperdot. They feel like they are cut from the same cloth.
I will have to look, because I was trying to find things that could be comps for this game, the best comparables to be able to reach out to.
Hyperdot's kind of the inverse of this. Hyperdot's all about, it's the same play field, but you're avoiding things instead of attacking things.
Well, pacifism mode and Geometry Wars.
Yeah, like just dodging the bullet waves in a bullet hell without ever shooting back is basically Hyperdot.
Right. So my comparison, I don't know if you guys remember, but I talked about a game called Gaballer.
Oh yeah.
A long time ago, which was similar to that. The bullets would come out. It was a circle or a square, I think, in that one, but like this one, there's like a circle playing field, and you have to dodge all the bullets and hit the one trinket thing to progress, right? In this, rather than doing any of that, your character, which you have several to choose from, you can unlock them as you play, most of them hold a baseball bat that you then deflect the projectiles back to the enemies who are going around the edge, the circle, right? So it's going to be a whole conversation about gameplay. I want to talk about what it looks like first, because I think it's, put a little picture in everybody's head in case they aren't looking at screenshots. I'm glad you guys talk about Geometry Wars and Geometry Dash. Reminds me, it's like a very basic visual art style, but I would call it a geometric art style. Yeah. I guess sort of similar to like Thomas Was Alone, except for a very different game. But it's all just shapes on the screen. There's no personified thing anywhere here. There's no faces. It's literally a circle of 2 colors, shades of blue on the outer edge and the inner edge, in the middle of it. And then your character is you basically are a cursor character of some kind. Each character has a little bit of a different symbol on them. And then there are shapes that run around the outside of this circle. So it's very much, honestly, this is the budget Steam games, which is what we're getting into here. This is a lot of what I thought that we would find or maybe be bringing. A lot of these, what look like maybe puzzle games or things like this. Maybe it almost looks like a game you could buy on mobile, although this game would never work on mobile. But that's what it reminds me of. I will say it has a very serious level of polish. That a game, I talked about Mimic Logic last game. This game has like worlds more polished than Mimic Logic. Mimic Logic is about as bare bones as it could get, RPG Maker. This, like everything you do, everything is shimmering and there's lighting effects and everything's coming off of it. Like it looks really good, which is why I think Geometry Wars is a good comparison. It's not as neon, I guess, as that game, right? It's more flat colors. But yes, it's a really good looking game, I will say. Now,
yeah, very much so.
I will attempt to tackle gameplay. So, I already mentioned Gaballer. Similar to Gaballer, except for rather than dodging, you do still need to dodge. You can't get hit, right? You have a health bar, you don't want to get hit, but you're attempting to ricochet or deflect bullets back to the enemies on the outside. I would also do a little bit of a comparison. My wife walked in and watched me playing this, and she's like, that's kind of like that other game you like. I'm like, I like a lot of games. I don't, the one you always play. Oh, Gungeon. So yes, it is sort of like Gungeon. And especially when I think of, there's a couple weapons in Gungeon. There's a baseball bat in Gungeon, which is funny, where that's one of the only weapons that you can actually deflect projectiles back at enemies. So that is very much kind of similar to what you're doing in here. And realistically, it plays, if you play Gungeon with mouse and keyboard, it plays exactly the same. You move your mouse around and that's your character moving, just like you do in this game. So as I mentioned at the top, your character moves with mouse. So as fast as your mouse can move, you can move your character just as fast. Very similar to Gungeon playing that way or Gaballer. And then I think there's a little bit of what it reminded me of was Link to the Past as well. In Link to the Past, you go up against a character named Aghanim. And I think, it's been copied so many times where, Aghanim sends a projectile at you. And it's one of those unique things in that game where you can actually hit it back, right? So you can play this game of tennis almost, or baseball, which is exactly what you do, except for that's the whole premise in this game, is you're always trying to defeat the enemies around the outside to increase your score by hitting them with your own baseball bat, or some other characters do different things as well. But all right. So yes, I talked about the different unlockable character types. You start out with just a regular guy that's got a baseball bat, but you can eventually get a different character that can turn the projectiles into basketballs, and then the basketballs can bounce twice. You can get a guy that turns all projectiles into bombs, and then that bomb can go back at a group of the characters going around the outside and blow them all up at once, which is nice. So all your characters that you can unlock have pros and cons, because if you guys are looking at screenshots, there's a lot of stuff that's kind of the UI that goes around the outside of the circle. There is stamina, which is on the right side. There's multiple bars where if you swing, 1 bar of stamina goes down. And every time you swing, you lose stamina. Of course, that stamina does come back over time. But the easiest way to manage stamina is to correctly and accurately point your projectiles at enemies and make sure you're hitting them and destroying them, because that automatically refills parts of your stamina, right? So the game really encourages you to deflect projectiles and make sure you're actually hitting something. You can just move around and just swing willy-nilly and not hit anything. There are arrows that will come out of the projectiles that as you get close to them that will show basically the trajectory of how each one will fly. So it gives you an idea of how you want to, swing at it and where you want to push it to. And then you also have to consider the enemy's speeds because each enemy moves either very slowly around the edge or very quickly. So you have to kind of aim in front of a lot of enemies to make sure you actually hit them. Oftentimes what I was doing is I would actually get close to the edge. If I knew I wanted to get rid of an enemy, I would obviously have to watch and make sure I don't run into any projectiles and hurt myself. But I would just get really close to the edge and try to angle those projectiles so I didn't have as far to shoot them, right? So I wasn't guessing as far. But it kind of is like pool in that way, right? Game of angles. You're trying to make sure that your angles are right on so you can make sure you're getting into the hole, or in this case, hitting the enemy. You have health, so every time you get hit, you lose a health. Every time you get hit 3 times, you lose all your health and you're done. The whole point of this game is it's a score chaser, basically. So you're just trying to get as high a score as possible. You get your score up by hitting a projectile will give you 5 points. Killing enemies give you a variety of points, but it gives you more points. And then you have a combo meter where if that combo meter, basically it will go up by 1 every time you kill an enemy. And then there's a bar above your combo that will slowly decrease, but it's probably around 5 seconds or so that you have to kill another enemy. And if you keep killing enemies over and over and over again, you get that combo meter to go up and you can get your score to just take off. And that's what you want to do. And then there are also these things called trials, which are a little bit different than the typical gameplay type where you're kind of running in and doing runs over and over again, sort of like a roguelike or something. A trial is where you're going in, you have to turn all the enemies on the outer edge gold rather than red. And the unfortunate thing about that is certain characters that you can get do things that are kind of in the game itself proper are great. There's a character called Katana, where each strike, basically, every other strike basically makes it so that your projectile splits off into 2 and goes at a 90-degree angle from each other, which is nice because you can have a better chance of hitting enemies if you got 2 projectiles. But when you're trying to do the trial version and you're trying to make sure every single enemy is gold, every time you hit a gold enemy after you've already turned it will turn back red. So now you're trying to manage, back and forth between having 1 projectile, then 2 projectiles. And it gets very hectic, especially when you have bullets all over the screen. Honestly, really frustrating, but there's, of course, achievements attached to making sure you get all the trials done. And every time you complete a trial for each character has their own trial, you get to unlock like a bonus ability of that character. So for Katana, Katana naturally does either they'll do the 1 straight on and then they'll do 2. But if you unlock the trial, then every single one is 2. You have 2 projectiles every time you hit it, right? So you constantly have 2 projectiles, which should, in theory, make it so you can get higher combos by defeating more enemies. And so you want to beat the trials. But they are, at least the last couple of them are very, very challenging. Let's see. You might be able to see, if you guys are looking on screen, anybody is looking up screenshots, there's these things that kind of float around on screen that looks like areas that your character can go in. Those are power-ups. You can get your health back with power-ups. You can get a shield. You can get like a area of effect almost thing, deflection, where you can stand in the middle of it and all projectiles will bounce right back off of it, back to where they came from. So it's kind of like a protection. And then there's another one that if you stand in it long enough, it just explodes bullets out of it. So they just go all sides of the screen. And yeah, I think that is... Oh, I should talk about the enemy types briefly. So each enemy does a little bit of a different thing. Circles shoot out just circles that kind of move slowly across the screen that you can deflect. Triangles shoot out triangles that home in. They're like arrows. So you have to, especially when there's a lot of triangles, you have to really be mindful of where you're at, watch your character, or else they will track you down. There's characters that shoot up bombs that eventually blow up as they're in the middle of the screen. The most annoying enemy ever, is the square that shoots a beam out. It is terrible. Every time there's one, dang squares, they suck. But every time there's a square enemy on screen, I am prioritizing defeating that, because basically that beam will go across your play area and now all of a sudden you can't get to the other side. So if there's a power up over there, you have to wait. If there's whatever, right? You basically have half or a quarter or wherever you got your stuck of the screen to play in. So you're trying to dodge everything in this little tiny space. And if you go into that beam, then you get hurt, right? So it gets pretty darn hectic after a while. I did a lot of talking about gameplay. Do you guys have any questions?
So it's all mouse based. So you basically the cursor is the mouse movement.
Correct.
That you're, and then like clicking is basically doing like the bat motion, I'm guessing,
Yes,
right?
yes.
I do see on this. Yeah, I do see on the Steam page there's controller support. Would that be advised at all with this game?
So I don't know what I was doing. I got into this game. Oh, no, I think I just maybe accidentally clicked my controller because I had played that Froggo game right before. Something happened where I plugged my Xbox controller into my computer while I had this game up. And there is a notice that comes up that's like, this game is optimal on mouse. Are you sure you want to play on controller? Because it is not optimized for this. You're going to suck if you do this. You can play it, but it's not going to be fun. So, I never tried, but
I like that the user-defined tags on Steam for this game are arcade, score attack, bullet hell, Souls-like, shoot 'em up, arena shooter, action casual, baseball.
Baseball, action casual baseball.
That's spot on.
Yeah, I'm gonna use this for my Yars square because it's Souls-like. it is not a Souls-like. I have no idea. I guess people probably put that at some point because it's difficult.
Because it's hard.
Yeah. But it's really only as difficult as you make it. Like, at the end of the day, you can be proud of your achievement, no matter what you scored. That's, I would say, one of the biggest detractions of this game is there's no ending, which is a bummer for a lot of, polymedia people, I will say, because they want to be able to beat games. But for me, I mean, you could get all achievements and call it beat, I think, but I would say it's going to be tough. Like I've got 6 achievements left, and I imagine it will take me at least as long as I've played so far to get those 6. By the way, to just a point of how addictive this game is. I started this last night just to piddle around with it, see how it was, and I have put 6 hours into it since last night to this episode. Yeah,
that's a good sign, man. That means it's fun, right?
My wife walked in and was like, you like that game? I'm like, I mean, it's one of those games you really hone in on and zen out a little bit. It's very zen, but at the same time also difficult. But it's just this weird thing when you're trying to dodge bullets, you just really focus on what's going on screen. And yeah, I mean, it is insanely addictive.
Sorry, I was just going to comment that it's like any good arcade game. Like,
yes, if
I'm going to go to an arcade and there's a Robotron, I'm going to be sitting there for 2 hours, just the same way, just zoned in, playing it. So
this would be an awesome quarter munching. I don't know how your controller would be on an arcade cabinet, but gosh, it would just eat quarters because you would just try to get higher scores all the time. But music, very good. I would say it just works perfectly with this kind of game. Very chill, nothing super, like, it would have been really annoying if when you got down to 1 HP, the music changed or something. I made it so you felt frustrated or stressed. It is always chill. I would say very similar to Geometry Wars or Geometry Dash, that kind of vaporwavy but mellow kind of music, right? It's perfect for this type of challenging game, I would say. Anything else you guys have questions on before I put it on the quest log?
No questions, but it sure looks like I would suck at this game. Although I do really want to play it.
Yeah, I threw it on the wish list. It's going to be one that I'll probably pick up, if I just want a little time waster. That's really what it looks like. And not in a negative, derogatory way. More like, I have an hour. What do I want to play? Oh, let's try this out, so.
I will say during the day today, Josh, you say that, but during the day today, I was like, I'm waiting to flip over laundry or something. Like, I'll go play Circle Hitter for 15 minutes. And 15 minutes quickly becomes an hour because it's just like, one more. It's not a roguelite, but it's very much one more run. I could do it a little better. I screwed that up. I can do it better. I'm going to say where I'm going to put this on the quest log. I actually struggled with this one. I went back and forth on what I wanted to do and actually crossed off my initial choice to change it.
Oh.
I am going to say that this is a top tier side quest for me.
Okay.
All right.
I say that because the biggest attraction for me is there's no way to get credits like that. I wish they had, because Gaballer did that, right? They had 10 levels and then you finished and then, okay, there's credits. But then you have unlimited loop modes and stuff like that. Really, this is a score chasing leaderboard game. And when I say leaderboard, this is one of my favorite things. And this is why I encourage the two of you and also all of our listeners to go buy Circle Hitter, because I want to compete with everybody. You can do, It's got the neon white friends list scores. It's got, of course, it's got that where you can just go to just your friends list and see what everybody else has done. But then it's also got, for every single character, rankings for everybody that's played this game on Steam. And it is addictive to just move up that ladder a little bit at a time. Like, oh my, like it was, like I was obsessed with it over the past day, right? Going back and, where am I at? I'm in 250th place with this character. Okay, I'll go try to bump that up a little. All right, I'm 200th now. Let's go look at somebody else. I think my best, it does a character leaderboard and then it also does a total score leaderboard. So basically each character can get their own score and then they do a combined leaderboard of scores. So I got to, I think, 68 or 6,700, which seems low, but I am telling you it is real. Like after 3,000, after you get to 3,000, the enemies on screen are crazy. It gets real tough. So I felt pretty good about it. I think I'm in like 120th place or something right now.
Nice.
So not too bad. But I will also say that the most difficult achievement is to hit 15,000 score. So I am a little bit away from that. I would love by the end of the year to, and this is one I'm going to come back to and just screw around with all the time. I know it for a fact. It would be great if everybody else would also play. But I'm going to come back and play this a lot, and I'm hoping to get all achievements by the end of the year.
I can see it being a really good pick up and play game. Right? Yeah. Like I have, whatever. I have a few minutes between ending my work day and needing to go pick up my kid from daycare. Let me get a run or two in before I go.
It is exactly that. Yep. It's so much fun. So, okay.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah. All right. Circle Hitter. My turn. All right. Well, my game is called SNKRX, and the way it's spelled is SNKRX. This game is an action, roguelike, arena shooter, auto battler snake game.
Wow.
So, yeah, so what captured me was just like the really eye-catching logo. I just saw this logo. I was like, what is this thing? And then I started just getting into this game. I didn't put as much time as you did. I put 6 hours in. I put probably 4 hours or so into this. But what it is you play a snake game with segments that each segment has its own class. So you start off with 7 that you can have. There are like it's basically like you would think of like sword battler. There's like an archer. There's like a mage. Like fantasy classes, and each one of these has different skills that helps your snake survive the 25 rounds of the roguelite, to get through to the end and win the game, or at least win a run. And this game's very addictive because it starts becoming more like, okay, it does the thing that a lot of roguelites do. You do a run or you do like one of the waves or one of the 25 areas, and you go to a shop and you're like, okay, I got 10 gold from this last run. I have a cleric that's giving me health packs. I have an archer that's doing the long distance shots. And then I got like, let's take a red character. I have all the characters here because there's so many. I have like a beast master that spawns 4 critters that follow you around, and what do I want to do? Okay, I have enough gold to level up this characters, and each character can be leveled up to level 3. So if you keep buying that same character, it'll level up that character and that segment of the snake. And the snake can be reorganized if you want. So if you want your cleric on the front and your archer in the back, you can do that. And it's basically just each run you just make your snake better and you try to find synergies in all the different classes. And then there are passive abilities that spawn every, I think, 5 rounds. And you can add those passive abilities. And some of those have level up options as well. Upon first look at this game, what are you guys thinking so far?
I think that this would absolutely be my jam, Josh. Yeah, I can't believe
it is.
Like this is
look like that.
Yeah, like actually it has a similar, I wonder if it was made in a similar engine or something, but it has a similar graphical style. Like the shimmery shapes are similar to Gaballer, actually.
I was gonna say, yeah, like funny that we already brought up Gaballer on this, because it does kind of remind me of that. It's got like a wiggly, very intense kind of like shaky, vibraty style to it. It reminds me, it's not nearly as intense as this, but there's a vertical scrolling shoot 'em up called Rim 9000, RYM 9000. That's like a game that's basically trying to visually overload you. This feels a lot like a manageable, simple color version of that. Like this is the Squirtle and Rim 9000 is the Blastoise.
Nice. So pretty much, like you said, it's a very dark, like grid-like square that you're in. It's all like dark grays, and then you play as a snake with different colors. I think there's like, well, 1, 2. I'm literally just have it in front of me, so I might as well count them. I think it's 8 different colors that you can choose from for your class, and each of them have a class, and then each class has like subcategory classes. So there'd be like a rogue, and that's like red, right? And then, like I said, there's like a Beastmaster character that can be part of the rogue class. So if you plan this out right, you can have like an entire like team of reds that will all stack together. And if you level up that one like group all together in a thing, you get a special passive effect too. So it's like there's a lot of levels to this. But yeah, so it's basically, imagine playing Snake, like, you know, Nokia phone Snake, but a little bit like nicer. You know, it's 8-bit kind of, but it's very visually overwhelming. The main way to control the Snake, it automatically goes, and you just hit on the keyboard. It's A and D, you know, left and right. Or, you know, if you have a controller, you can just tap the D-pad left and right, and that's the only controls you have. But it's mostly the managing your characters and trying your best to dodge as good as you can. And it's pretty cool. Later on, if you beat the game, it's not really a spoiler. You can make your snake longer if you go to like a next run, basically, and keep on playing. So you can get up to like, and that's basically New Game Plus, is to add like another segment to the snake each time. So you can go to like New Game Plus 6, I think, or something like that. So, very addicting game. It's just similar to the game, you know, Circle Hitter. You know, you just sit there and you can just play, and it's kind of like almost mindless, but there is that strategy element to it where you kind of have to make sure that you're staying alive, because each color enemy have different effects. So like the red enemy will run directly at you. The green enemy, and all these enemies are just usually like little circles or like pill-shaped enemies. The green enemy, when dying, all the movement speed of the enemies nearby will get faster. Blue will drop a death orb that like explodes. So if you see a blue and you kill it, you need to make sure you're like away from the blue guy, because he'll blow you up. And orange, you know, it keeps going from there. They're all different effects, and you kind of learn that as you play. And there's also guides online if you're curious. And then what will happen if you lose a segment, it will literally just disappear from your snake as you're playing. So let's say you have 5 and you're going good, but you'll see the 5 with the health bars at the bottom, and then one of them dies. That segment will disappear for that segment, and you'll have to try to survive. And basically, if you run out of pieces of snake, you lose the run. So the whole idea is to try to, you know, I like having a cleric in my build because he drops health orbs, because, you know, you want to survive. So that's a good starter build. But when you get more like in depth with it, like a lot of people don't even have the health pickup guy, because they have so much like area of effect attacks and like lightning bolt attacks and stuff that it's pretty much just overwhelming to all the enemies. There are times when elites will spawn, which, you know, they're bigger pill-size guys. They have like little like wave effects that happen. They sometimes have lightning attacks. I feel like those guys are a little more randomized than what they do. But they're definitely like very spongy. So you just kind of gotta kill all the little dudes and avoid the elite as best as possible and try to kill him and tick off his health, as to survive that run. But yeah, it's a really interesting game. I like literally sat there for the first session for like an hour and a half, just zeroed in on this game because I just kind of got addicted to trying to manage my little snake dude. Yeah, Seth, this is definitely up your alley, I would say.
I have a question quick. So I see at the upper right corner it says wave and then so many out of 10 or so many out of 5. You mentioned losing a section of your snake. Once you lose that section, let's say you finish that wave, do you get that section back then, or is it gone forever?
Usually they'll heal up a little bit between runs. So say like you lose your archer, which I think is yellow. You lose him, he'll be a part of your team next time, but he'll have just a little bit of health, not as much health. And then every time you pass a run, everything heals up a little bit more. It's nice, like I said, it's nice to have a healing segment so you can like just pick up those little health orbs as you're snaking around. The walls don't damage you or anything. You can bounce off the walls, use that as a strategy. Like there's passive abilities that like the walls will make your enemies explode. There's stuff like that too, like that kind of add that roguelite energy to it and the randomness that a roguelike will bring. The music's awesome. I'll say I think it's only like 5 or 6 tracks, but they're just bangers. Like you'll just be jamming when you're playing this game. They're so good. It's like kind of upbeat, like kind of chiptune-y, but like a little bit more advanced chiptune-y, so you're just getting some jams going in. And I think this type of game needs that, because you're going to be playing a lot and it's very endlessly replayable, type of game. So
yeah, it's kind of like turn-based RPG battle music. Like it's something that you're going to hear a lot. You need it to pump you up.
Yeah, and the music's done by a guy named Kubi, and I honestly think like this music is incredible. So that really adds to it. The presentation is like very stimulating, like a lot. It's very like I feel like we kind of like hit me and Drachma here kind of hit the stimulation point, I guess, of the games. Seriously. Here. They're like they're really intense to look at and play. I can definitely tell from your game as well. But yeah, this one is just you can get down a rabbit hole very quickly with this one, trying to look up guides, watch people do like class builds, and I think that it's very, very addictive in that respect as well. So simple concept, but I would love to see this game. I think this game is I don't know if it's the first game they've ever made, but they don't have anything else on Steam, so I'm assuming this might be the only game they've ever. Oh, they have another smaller game called Bite Path. Okay, I'm seeing that now. But really, it's very much gives that. I'm looking around on itch and I'm seeing some random game and I just download it and somehow it's this deep for this cheap. And it's a $3 game, and it's definitely a very good time. Any questions before I put it on the quest log here?
I think it looks awesome, and I'm so surprised that I had not heard about it before because it has over 4,000 reviews on Steam, and it has an overwhelmingly positive rating. It's like 95%. So that is awesome.
Yeah, I saw like popular Twitch streamers did some playthroughs of it, like Northern Lion, which he does. Yeah, I was watching some of his. I was watching some of his videos on that on this game, and he was loving it too. I think that if you're a fan of this genre specifically, especially like you love the trying to find the perfect build in a roguelite, this is pretty much that, like almost to its essence, And I really do think that if that interests you and that's something that you are, that you put that in my veins, you see a roguelike, you're like, I gotta play that this is gonna be up your alley for sure.
It seems almost like an auto battler that you have some control over in a way, right? Where you're so focused on the build. It's all about the build, making sure the build is as good as possible, but you still have to dodge stuff, which is good.
Yeah, you still got to play the game. Like it does have some strategy, and like That you can make the snake faster. Like it's not like a one set speed. Like there are like passive abilities to make the snake faster. Some of the characters even have like 10% added to the snake speed, and so you can actually get a snake zipping around this thing, going crazy fast if you want it to. Or you can. I just want to be a dude that goes normal speed, and I have 5 healers, and I'm sending out giant energy balls around, that kill enemies. You can do that as well. So it's kind of just however you want to play it. I do think it's interesting how the shop works. I'll just get into that for a second. You get like a lot of gold, and you kind of have to like cycle. So say you have your 7 segments, and you can't add a segment. You'll have like 250 gold or something. You can either cycle the shop until you can level up all those characters, or you can sell the characters and get a little bit of money back and then like replace your characters. So there's kind of like a risk reward there. So say, I'm not really liking this magma effect this guy has, so let's go ahead and sell him, and then we'll hope for the best. I get something good in the shop, and then you can try to level that guy up between runs and stuff. It's more like a try to plan your build, but sometimes it's easier to kind of like stick with the same 7 you end up with, but maybe like it'll be a little more powerful if you sell a couple of them and try to get some synergies going. So it definitely has that management element to it.
Yeah, I enjoy when a shop lets me reroll.
Pretty much.
A la, Skull or Balatro, right? Where it's like, I'm risking my money, but I could get something good, and it's kind of that gambling aspect, right? But yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and then like some of the, I mean, I don't want to get too deep into the weeds here, but like some of the passive abilities will have like a 20% or 40% or 60%. And you can actually level those up too as well. So say it's like, you have 20% chance of sending out an energy ball. Okay, now it's 40% if you level it up, and then 60%.
Okay. Yeah,
so
sweet.
yeah,
I like that.
So there are certain passives that have that effect as well. So,
nice.
And then when you beat the game, you can go to New Game Plus, or you can do looping, which you'll keep all your power ups, and you can just start the game over. And then just annihilate people and just rack up steamroll and rack up money, which I did that. It's just almost there. It's almost like a screensaver. I felt like I was playing on a Steam Deck. I could just literally set my Steam Deck down and just watch all the crazy like animations and stuff. It's almost like a visualizer for the music at some point. So but yeah, I actually was struggling to put this on the quest log. Like I was saying the whole time I was playing it, I was like, this is a side quest game. This is a side quest game. Because, I was like, that's pretty simple. But the more I played it, I'm kind of like leaning toward a main quest on this one because of the depth of the game. Like I do think that people who are into this game, I think anybody can have fun with it, for one. And then people who are into this genre are just going to like, it's like hit in a candy store. So I'm just going to do it. I'm going to put it on main quest. This is a main quest for me. So I think if you're into roguelites, you're going to have a good time with this. Even if you're not, if you're into playing Snake, you're going to have a good time with this game. It's a really, really fun auto battler. If you like Vampire Survivors, it kind of gives that energy, and it's like came out way before Vampire Survivors because, it's an auto shooter. So yeah, definitely check it out if you are interested. It's called SNKRX, SNKRX, or SNKRX, however you want to pronounce it. The developer has said he doesn't care how you pronounce it. He says SNKRX. So there we go.
There we go. I'm sure it's a future main quest for Drachma too. So it's all good. And I'm happy because I wanted at least one game to show up on the main quest here for our bargain episode. I don't want to give the false impression that bargain games have to always be on the side quest. So.
Yeah, and it's like, to me, for me, in my perception of this game, this might be like, hey, this is a Josh side quest, but looking at the big
picture
outline of it, it's big picture, it's a main quest, like with a bullet, because I know that a lot of people in the community, if you guys try this out, let us know. You're gonna have a good time with it. It's just a really fun game, so definitely check it out. All right, so we had 3 games on our special bargain episode, each under $3. I think me and Seth had $3 games, and your game was $1.99, Steve. So we got Circle Hitter and Macbat 64 on the side quest, and then SNKRX on the main quest today. I think that was a good little selection there. What do you guys think?
I'm really happy with how it came out. I'm already looking forward to the next time we do this.
Yeah, I am. I don't know about you guys. I am stunned that none of us brought a puzzle game. Stunned because
There's a lot.
so many puzzle games, and I just kept looking, and I was going to play one. A lot of them look very cool. I was just like, yeah, I want to try to get something other than a puzzle game because I'm certain that someone else is going to bring one. So it's honestly kind of a refreshing thing that none of us brought a puzzle game, in a way.
There's like a lot of like
the variety, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of Sokoban type games right out there that are like $2, right?
I also, I don't know how you guys ended up landing on your games. For a while I just went to the itch page and I filtered to the price range, and I was just kind of scrolling through popular games to see what were some of the like more well-known itch games at this cost. And a lot of them were like horror games. Like they seemed like the kind of like horror games, like maybe very streamable horror games.
Yeah.
Like sort of Five Nights at Freddy's type of a deal. So I didn't think any of us would bring that because I don't think that's any of our like go-to genres, but I was surprised to see that is definitely right up there with puzzle games as like top representation.
Maybe we need to do a spooky bargain quest.
Oh,
just do two.
Cool.
Do a big old mashup.
October we can have 2 different spooky episodes. One bargain, one not.
Yeah, that'd
be cool.
Be cool.
I'm down for that. Yeah, for me, I just went to Steam and just put in $5 or less and started scrolling. And this was on page like 8 or 9 or something, and I was like, I clicked on it. I was like, the logo looks cool. I clicked on it, and then it's literally like buying albums in the early 2000s. Like, this album cover looks cool. Let's buy it.
Yes,
and it's pretty much the same vibe. Like,
standing
I like the way that
cheapo records, right? And just listening to like the first track in the headphones. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I saw a little bit of the gameplay. It looked colorful and looked fun. I was like, shit. $3. I could do $3.
Yeah.
Threw the $3 down, bought it, and then I had a great time, and it's a main quest game. So that's awesome.
Honestly, that was my hope. I was hopeful that is kind of the experience that we would have. Like, oh, it's the window shopping thing, or the experience of going to a Toys R Us in 1995 and looking at the cover of a game and being like, oh, this looks fun. Let's just give it a go and see what happens. So,
yep.
Cool. And this was, I will give credit. This was the captain's idea. This is Drachma's baby. Another good idea that you brought to the show. So I appreciate that.
It is, it's basically just our show, except we have a little bit of a restriction. So it's not the most creative thing in the world. It's kind of IndieQuest by Potomax in a way. Shout out.
So true.
Well, it's like, here's the template. Let's here's the pizza pie. Well, how many slices? How many ways can we slice this pizza pie? We got square, we got triangles. Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, that'll do it for the show today. What we do at the end of the show is plugs. You can find the show at IndieQuest Pod on Twitter or X if you're a madman, and you can send us an email at IndieQuestPod@gmail.com. Steve, where can they find you on the internet?
Best places are going to be Twitch and Twitter as Blinkoom. That's Blink OOM, M like Macbat. Drachma, where can they find you?
You can find me at Captain Drachma on Twitter, and of course in the Polymedia Discord, best place on the internet. And if you want to get into that Discord, head on over to Patreon, search Polymedia, and select the tier that'll get you in the Discord and come chat.
I believe very fittingly for this episode, it is the $3 tier. So it's the bargain hunter tier, baby.
It's a bargain, people.
Josh, what about you? Where can they find you?
Okay, you can find me at Frantic Society on the old Twitters, and you can find Polymedia Network at polymedianetwork.com. There's a bunch of podcasts for nostalgia, video games, movies, and anything that you're possibly interested in. Any shows you want to shout out just real quick here, either one of you?
We've got Uncle Doug's DVD been going hot on the movies right now. So if you're a movie person and looking for a movie podcast, check out Uncle Doug's DVD bin.
Awesome. All that and more at polymedianetwork.com, like I said, and that's the end of our show today. Steve, why don't you give the folks something nice to think about for the next couple weeks before they hear our sweet voices again?
Sounds good. First off, if anybody else out there has a nice, cheap indie game recommendation, again, send it to our email, indiequestpod@gmail.com. Put your thumb on the scale, people. Let us know what we should bring to the next episode. Beyond that, I just want everyone to take care, enjoy your indie games at whatever price, and happy birthday to all the 1-year-olds out there. Peace.
See ya.
Bye.